Hi YouTube family, Lisa A. Romano here, the life coach, and I want to talk about why it is that so many of us feel stuck in relationships and why it's so hard for us sometimes to leave our narcissists or to just leave a relationship that is not growing. Remember, we are innately supposed to grow. We are no different than a blade of grass or a tree or a butterfly. We are supposed to be growing. If we are in relationships with people who inhibit that growth or have no interest in growing, and we have now discovered an interest in growing, then it's going to be very difficult for the entity or the energy that is that relationship to grow. When that happens, there needs to be a shift. And sometimes, the most often than not, if the relationship cannot change and cannot morph with your new understandings and your new desire for growth, sometimes the relationships have to come to an end. And so, like a skin that we have grown out of, it is time to leave it behind. Not easy. Much easier said than done. So let's talk about why. This video is I have the permission to speak about this from my client Craig. Namaste, Craig. How are you? Craig is doing great in coaching. He's come a very long way in a very short amount of time. And he actually suggested that I talk about this in a YouTube video because he said I said things in our coaching lesson that he hasn't heard me say in a YouTube video, and he really believed that what he learned could help other people. So any of you that take anything away from this video, you can send a shout out to Mr. Craig. It is because of his desire to share what he learned with you that I'm bringing you this video. So the question is, why is it so hard for me to leave a relationship that I know is hurting me? Okay. If you understand how the brain works, how the organic tool, the brain works, you can understand how it is or why it is it's difficult for you to leave relationships. In Craig's case, there was such an intense fear attached to being alone that the idea of leaving the narcissist was less frightening than being alone. Now, the brain prioritizes fear. The brain prioritizes pain. So if in my brain I fear more on a pain meter, if you will, if I fear more being alone than I do with this narcissistic relationship or with this relationship with the narcissist, I'm going to feel stuck for sure. I'm not going to leave because my brain is going to avoid the pain of being alone, which is going to cause me to stay stuck. I won't leave. In my own case, I was so unhappy in my first marriage, so unhappy. Granted, I was a codependent. Granted, I was a people pleaser. Granted, I was full of resentment and didn't know how to speak my truth. Granted, all my, I don't like to use the word fault because it was really not my fault. It was my programming. It was the result of programming. I judge myself not. I judge myself not because I did not know I did not know. And so being not in judgment of myself and saying, oh, okay, there was a time in my life where I was living below the veil and my life represented that. So my mother enabled my dad. They were adult children, unrecovered, of alcoholics, playing out their programming, trying to control one another and everything around it, including us, and including our feelings. We weren't allowed to have feelings, even though even just saying that out loud sounds absolutely stupid and insane. I was not allowed to have feelings. No. Let's clean that up, dear one. I always had feelings. I wasn't permitted to express those feelings. Those feelings were invalidated. I was programmed to shame my feelings, negate my feelings, feel guilt about my feelings, deny my feelings, but I always had feelings. I always had feelings. It's like trying to stick a giant meteorite on the top of a volcano. It's going to explode. And just because that rumbling, that ash, volcanic ash or lava isn't spewing out on the side of a mountain, doesn't mean that that volcano isn't erupting and feeling and bubbling below the surface. So we are volcanoes. We are either, meaning that we are always supposed to be spewing, or not spewing, but expressing our feelings, expressing our emotions. We are emotional beings, period. But we also have to understand that we are a physical, robotic, computer-generated, animated, physical being as well. So we really are spiritual beings that are trying to interface with the physical world with this thing called the brain. And we must develop an appreciation and a respect for how the organic thing, the brain, works. Once you understand, and Craig got it, that's what I love about life coaching, when a client gets it. Craig made the connection. Oh, I fear being alone more than I fear being in a narcissistic relationship. Yes, in fact, there is no fear when you're in a narcissistic relationship. There's a bunch of control. There's low expectation. There's status quo. But there is no fear because you know exactly what your wife or your husband is going to do the next day. You do. So you have learned to, it's like the story about the frog. If you take a frog and you throw him into a pot of boiling water, he jumps out. But if you take the same frog and put him in a pot of water and you raise the temperature of that water slowly, that frog will boil to death because it has become acclimated to the heat, to the burn, to the pain. And for those of us who come from homes where we were ignored, we attract partners that ignore us in adult relationships. So we're like those frogs that the water's been turned up ever so slowly. So in that situation, we don't really take the time to think about it, dear ones, but we really need to. Why didn't Craig associate pain with being in a narcissistic relationship? Because he's the frog that's sitting in that pot of water. It's what he's used to. He's not used to the shock of being alone. So the shock of being alone, in his head, bells and whistles go off. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I'm afraid to be alone. And so what does the brain do? The brain will seek more pleasure or relief of pain in staying stuck in a relationship that he is acclimated to, even if it's uncomfortable. So, brilliant. Okay, life coach, how do I fix this? And my answer is very practical. We have to associate more pain with staying inside a narcissistic, unfulfilling relationship than we do with leaving the relationship. Until we confront exactly what staying in a dysfunctional relationship is costing us emotionally, physically, sexually, financially, mentally, whatever. Until we focus on, oh my God, at what cost is this relationship? What cost is this relationship to my life and my life experience? What's happening? We don't like to go there in the moment because the brain wants to avoid pain. So while you're in a narcissistic or an unfulfilling relationship, it could just be unfulfilling. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a narcissistic partner. It could just be unfulfilling, dissatisfying, and unable to connect with your partner who is completely uninterested in wanting to make the relationship any better. Doesn't mean he's a narcissist. It could just mean that he's disinterested, he's content, not interested in pulling you down or having a lack of empathy for you. He's just not interested in growth. Okay. Now, what our brain will do, and this happened to me. I, in my daily, everyday life, went right into denial because I didn't want to face how unhappy I was because my brain was trying to avoid pain. Denial is all about trying to avoid pain. Denial is a defense mechanism, but in most people who come from dysfunctional homes, it is a defense that goes rogue. It's a defense mechanism that goes rogue. Because what it does, in my inability to confront what's wrong in my life, I stay in denial. And when I stay in denial, I give the reins of my life over to someone else. And I say, here you go, I'm not in control. I'm not willing to face that. Nope, not looking at that. Nope, don't want to hear that. My husband's cheating on me. I'm not looking at that. I think he's banging his secretary. Nope, not looking at that. Let me just slap my lipstick on. That's what we do. It's a defense mechanism because the brain is associating pain with confronting that reality. What we need to do is to, if we really want to get unstuck, and we want to utilize every tool in this magnificent body that we have. And our greatest tool, in fact, is our brain. If we want to get unstuck on a quantum level and feel like we're being propelled unconsciously within our being, then what we have to do is begin associating pain with the reality of our situation for the purpose of associating pain with staying, so that our brain can eventually associate more pleasure with being alone, being away from crazy people, being in a home or an apartment or renting a room, whatever, that we can put a little plant in and just be happy and I'm free. The moment my brain shifted and I associated more pain with staying in my first marriage than leaving my marriage, because there was a moment in which it was shifted. I shifted. The moment I looked over at my children sitting on our maroon leather couch, and I saw them fading away like little zombies into the world of Rugrats and Nickelodeon back in the day, and I saw them zoning out, while their father and I were having yet another abusive argument. And I'm sorry, I think when parents argue in front of their children, that's abusive. And so I own that, and I have to live with that. But when he came home from his last therapy session and said, our therapist said, I don't have to change, I looked into his eyes and I said, she's right. You don't have to change. And I'm sorry for making you or trying to make you change. It's your right. You don't have to change. But I don't have to stay, and I don't have to not change. The idea that if I stayed, I was going to teach my children to give the reins to someone else, like I had done, like my mother had done, like my sister had done, like my brother had done, like my uncles had done. Being codependent means that you give up your right to feel what you feel, accept what you feel, and make decisions based on what you feel. I didn't want that to happen to my children. And I knew that if I did not leave and model for my children self-love, they could not love themselves. And so, in that moment, my brain associated severe pain with staying in the relationship. And suddenly, I was able to make decisions very quickly, moving forward. Not say it wasn't easy. Remember, when you become unstuck, or you begin to become unstuck, codependency feels like this. The disentanglement. It's like pulling fibers apart. Literally, it's like ripping your skin off. This person is a part of you. You know, as dysfunctional as it is, they're like your conjoined twin, and now you're going, and it hurts. It hurts. It's unrealistic to think that it's not going to hurt to detach and get healthy from a codependent relationship. It's unrealistic. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt like hell, but it will get better. It does get better, and I'm living proof of that. And so I really hope that I've been able to make some headway with you. I really hope that I've been able to give you some clarity. You're not crazy if you feel stuck in a relationship that is abusive. You're not crazy. What is happening, however, is a defense mechanism that is divinely and innately created by your, well, I think, coded into us to protect us. That is, avoid pain, seek pleasure. I think it's gone rogue. And What we have to do is, just like you need to learn how to play a piano, you need to learn how to play the brain. You need to understand how it works. And if you can learn how it works and respect it, then you can actually program your brain appropriately to help you do and become anything you desire. If you want to be free from a narcissistic abusive relationship, what you have to do is stand still, get quiet, meditate, and journal about what this relationship is costing you. In Craig's situation, all I had to do was ask him to get a picture of his wife and this gentleman that she's been hanging out with. That makes him uncomfortable. Get a picture of it, put it on your desk, and every day look at it. If you think your husband's cheating on you, and you're pretty certain that he has, take the shirt that you think he wore to go meet his mistress and smell it. Smell it. Utilize every sense that you have in your being to incorporate what's happening in your life. That will help you remove the blinders. That will help you associate pain with the reality of your current situation and help you move forward, because remember, your brain wants you to avoid pain. If your brain thinks you're going to be sitting in toxic pain every single day because your husband is screwing his secretary, I'm telling you, if you take the blinders off and you associate pain with that situation, you will be shocked at how quickly you're able to make decisions, because your brain will not want you to sit in that pain every day. It will not. It will want you to seek pleasure. And I'm telling you, eventually your brain will associate more pleasure with being alone than in a relationship that is detrimental to you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. It is my guarantee to you, dear one. Craig, I want to say thank you, dear one, for allowing me to talk about this so openly in the video and to use the specifics of your relationship. Please note, dear one, that anyone that is coaching with me, I do not mention clients' names unless I have permission. I do not talk about details of our coaching session unless I'm given permission or asked to do so. I'm just very, very fortunate in the past few sessions that I've had with clients. They have been okay with me doing that, and it's actually suggested that I do that. So thank you, Craig, and amongst many other clients who have allowed me to use what we learn in our coaching sessions with other people, because you truly represent the light. And the light is meant to be shared. And just as it takes one candle to dispel or get rid of darkness in a room, Craig, you've been that candle today. Thank you for offering up your lesson, your private lesson with the world and our YouTube family. Namaste. I bow to the love and the light in you, dear ones. I bow to the love and light in you, dear ones. Bye.